G'day and welcome to your weekly Camera Ready Confessions, a weekly live stream bridging personal branding and video marketing so you can shine as the obvious choice. And welcome to us being on time this week. I mean, we usually are on time. Usually I'm spending that last 5 minutes of getting the streams ready, getting everything ready and putting on my makeup. But today I was early and on time, so be impressed with me, thank you. Welcome to everyone who is watching or listening to the live stream today on any of the platforms. Feel free to see the first link in the description to find out more. Speaking of first links, while you're down there, make sure to comment your thoughts, your questions, your ideas, or your own camera confessions throughout today's live stream and afterwards. #RealBoSquad. Don't worry, I haven't missed you. And I respond to all comments, so please do reach out. If you want to find out more information about this live stream, our weekly live stream, or our podcast, the Unboring Brand podcast, or Vic Podcasters, or all the other stuff that we do here at the Video Confidence Coach, please check out the website, vcc.training. That's the whole thing, vcc.training. All right, let's get on to the acknowledgements and we'll carry on with today's plans. I would like to acknowledge and pay my respects to the Wadawurrung people of the Kulin Nation, the traditional custodians of the land on which I conduct my business. I pay my respects to their elders, past and present. I stand with the traditional custodians of these lands in working towards a more equal future. Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people continue to face discrimination and disadvantage due to our country's colonial past. I stand with them in their fight against injustice. Always was, always will be Aboriginal land. And as we are recording this on the 24th of the 4th, 2026, we are rapidly going towards both NAIDOC week, which is a very intense week at the start of June, and also Reconciliation Week, which is in the start of May, middle of May. It is coming up rather soon. So the best way to say is if you are make sure you check out any local markets or any local events that may be happening on for those Indigenous events, as well as just make sure to support your local Indigenous co-ops or artists or businesses that are Indigenous founded and led. They always need support, and especially in Australia when everything is getting a little bit interesting at the moment. So please do make sure to support your Indigenous businesses, charities, and cooperatives, I should say. So we are checking in today with the Video Confidence Coach. This is what we've done over the past week since our last Camera Ready Confessions. So we have finally figured out our focus. Can I actually explain it to you clearly? No, I haven't. So our quarter focus for the Video Confidence Coach initially was going to be a tool that you could use to generate your custom avatar. We are still coming up with a couple of little tweaks that need to do that. And for now, we're kind of pivoting our energies. It's almost there, it just needs a little bit of test running. We're pivoting towards focusing on our people who are event organizers, event schedulers, all those types of people. So if you know anyone who needs someone who is on personal branding and video marketing, please do let me know. I'm happy to always chat of them about running a workshop, an event, or a seminar. Always happy to be there. So do let me know. I can always happy to reach out. So in regards to conversations that we've had this week, so we've had a we've had a lot of conversations over this past week. None that I can technically divulge here because they are project specific, but I do have one specific one that I had with Vicky, the story shaman. So she is based up in Melbourne, and she helps you cement your story. So this is someone who I met last week at a Difficult Women Doing Difficult Things. Thank you, Leela, for that event. And we had a great connection there. And we have, and I sent out an email this morning. So if you were on the Camera Ready Club email list, you will have to receive that email from me this morning, highlighting that I do get a lot of questions from people asking, how do I say this? When you come to me, you wanting video, you wanting proof, you want a personal branding work. Cool, I'm there, I can help you with that. When it comes to your story and figuring out where you stand and your values and your grounding, I'm kind of expecting you to have already done that work without actually giving you anyone to send you to do that work with. So Vicky is a really good person that I have met. And even though I've only met her recently, we've been able to connect and we have a few clients in common. So please do check out that if you are on the email list. And if you are not on the email list, then do get on it so you can find out more details about not just Vicky, but also other people that I have on my referral network. Because when you come to me, You don't necessarily need maybe video or personal branding, but I have the connections and I've got the goods for your girl. And don't worry if you're not a girl, that still applies. We are moving on to our Unboring Your Brand podcast. So this week we had the episode 108, which was, can a personal brand be silly? As you can probably imagine, of course it can, because look at me. We had the most recent one that was released on Wednesday. So if you have any questions regarding personal branding that you would love answers to, always happy to do it right here on the live stream, as well as in the podcast, the Unboring Your Brand podcast, which is released 6 a.m. every Wednesday, Melbourne time. And if you aren't in those time zones, it's going to be Tuesday night, ready for you Wednesday, when you check your phone. And the upcoming episodes that we have a couple in the pipeline that are really interesting. I've gotten a lot of good feedback from people that are on the email list, so please do check that out and subscribe to that on your podcast catcher of choice. And moving on to the Vic Podcasters, which is a group that we run on Facebook, LinkedIn, and an email newsletter. Find out more details at vcc.training/vic/podcasters, where essentially Vic Podcasters is the Victorian Podcasters group, where we have an opportunity to discuss, we have an upcoming Q&A live stream at the end of June, which is all about video podcasting. As you can probably imagine, I might have a lot to say about that, and it may be in my wheelhouse. So if you have any questions about starting video podcasting, what it actually means, should I bother with it? I'm getting conflicting messages, and so are you probably. If you are someone who wants to know more about video podcasting, or just wants a supportive community of people who are also releasing podcasts regularly, please do check out Vic Podcasters in the description below. And essentially this week, as you may have guessed, I'm a little bit low on energy, so I want to make sure that I can give as much that I can to you. So I give myself a little bit to warm up. And I put the glitters on my face thinking, yes, this will complete the look, but I can't smile properly because everything starts moving. We'll see how well that stays on my face. It probably won't. But that's not what you're here for. You are here for all things personal branding and video marketing. And as the topic of today's live stream denounces, not denounces is the wrong word there. The topic that we are discussing today is why people trust you faster on video. Now, I think we all implicitly... I need to work on my wording this morning. Why do people trust you faster when on video? It's kind of an underlying question that we kind of already know the answer to, especially if you've been in any sort of marketing spaces for your profession, for any hobbies, or anything that you're finding online. Usually there is some sort of a video component because it speeds up the trust factor. Because when you're wanting to, say, learn more about a certain subject, or you want to work from want to, find an expert that you can pay for their time or their services or their product or what have you, you need to be able to trust that they can do the job. And to do that, the easiest and quickest way, and the reason why I'm called the Video Confidence Coach, is because video is the quickest way to do that. We are covering all aspects of, you can hear my voice, you can hear my passion and my expertise, you can see how I look and get the idea of if I am the right vibe for you or not. If color is not your thing, we may not be friends, and that is okay. But if you like a little bit of color and a bit of spice in your life, please do carry on. And it also gives you a chance to understand the type of person that you're going to be dealing with, following, that you're going to be checking in on regarding this particular interest. Or maybe you have a particular problem that you want solved. And this person that you Googled, you AI'd, however you came across them, or maybe a friend of yours showed them to you. However you came across this person, the video is the quickest way to gain trust because it's bridging that gap. Text is awesome, don't get me wrong. As a dyslexic, it's not my first, as someone who is dyslexic, text is not my first port of call. It's a good way to back up what you are saying on video and online. But when it comes to having text just on, say, a website, or maybe an article, or maybe on a social media post, it's not as convincing unless they already trust you, unless they already know you, they've already met you, and they've already met you either in person, virtually, or any and all of the above. And this may just be a complete bias on my part, but Video, once you get going, once you have a process, and once you've practiced even an inch or a little bit, you get better returns. You get better returns on your energy and investment and what comes back to you. Now, I am a LinkedIn girly when it comes to my connections and my network, because I'm very much a B2B type person, business to business type person. Consumers, feel free to come along with me on my journey, but a lot of the work that I do in personal branding, as you can probably imagine, very much heavily links with, there you go, business type acumen and story. And a lot of my earlier content was about bridging that gap between the two things. And when it comes to being able to clearly articulate your message through video, having a message and a clear understanding of your audience is key. Whether you are doing it to share your interest in a hobby, or maybe you're doing it to communicate to your higher ups, or you're doing it to communicate to your potential audience because you want to bring them on board. You want them to trust you so that when you write a book, or when you do the next project or the next thing that you're going to do as part of your personal brand, you've got something with you. Like, you've got proof that you know what you're doing. And having that proof comes in many, many, many different ways. But the easiest and quickest way to get people to actually action something with you, be it signing up to your emailing list, be it following you on insert social media platform here, or going to your website, is video. YouTube has become is the second biggest form of long-term SEO, as well as other things like that. And essentially SEO is search engine optimization. So when people are finding a solution to their problem, or maybe you've come up because you can clearly articulate that problem, they are going to watch a video of you, even if it is just 10 seconds, to get your vibe, to see if you're the right person to follow. And if you're not the right vibe, that is fine. They piss off, you're all done. But for the people that stay, their problem is either so severe that they want a solution right here, right now, or they just enjoy your passion and your vibe enough to stick with you through the journey that you're going on, the project that you're building, or whatever you are trying to tackle in that stage of life that you're in. And hopefully it's a stage of life that they can understand because they've been there, or maybe they're starting to bridge into that stage of life themselves. We want to build community. And to build community, you need to build that on trust. Now, I'm not saying that every aspect of your personal brand needs to be totally digital. I am just a digital girly. A lot of my work online. But I'm going to tell you now that over this past week, I've had 3 conversations that I can stick in my mind of people who I'd never met in person. 3 people who saw me online, liked my vibe, followed me long enough to get a feeling of what I do and what I like doing. Of course, I want to articulate that clearly. But then they went, yes, you're the right person for me. Booked in a session with you. Now, is this part of the plan? Yes, hopefully. It's not going to work for everyone and everything. But building up that confidence to use that as part of your toolkit is more preferential to you and building a personal brand than just relying on old or outdated methods, or methods that don't serve your audience. And it always helps to have a method that works well for you and your audience, because you can, if you're going to enjoy doing it, you're going to make time for it. That's something that I had a conversation with earlier this week, is if you are going to enjoy doing it, you are going to make time for it. When it comes to social media, it's not exactly something I enjoy doing. Therefore, I have a tendency of kind of pushing it off. But I have tried really hard this week. So everyone, say hello when it comes to social media posts. So thank you everyone for your patience on that front from me. And when you are growing a personal brand, yes, it is the professional reflection of you. You are doing this for your audience to help solve their problem. And to do so, they need an expert. They need a guide. They need someone in front of them to tell them what's what. And you are going to be that person for that particular message, for those values, for the type of life that they want to live. You are going to be that guide. But you need to tell them that. You need to be clear on your message, and you need to bring that energy and that work that you've done and show it up, present it, and bring them in closer to your community. And whichever method you do that, video is a tool in your arsenal to be able to achieve that, whatever it is. Now, I've been thinking, and especially coming over these past couple of weeks, have been seeing the results of video on LinkedIn. Now, come with me on my little rant here. When it comes to LinkedIn, LinkedIn is owned by Microsoft and has been since like 2015, 2016, something like that. So it's been a fair while in the tank. And as Microsoft is wont to do, they do things and break them. But especially with LinkedIn, it is very hard for new formats to get a foothold. People are scrolling on LinkedIn during their work breaks, during meetings, and videos don't necessarily work the best there, which may seem counterintuitive as Zoë Wood, the video confidence coach. But that is why video is a toolkit in your arsenal. And I have gotten great success for my clients in using video as the kernel, as the source of truth, as the piece of content that has everything we need into it, and we repurpose 1,000 and a million different ways that best reflect to their audience on whichever platform they're on, but also doesn't take a million hours for them. Because you want to reach people, you want to be consistent, and you want to be known as the expert in your field. And to do so, you need to show up. And to show up, you need to show up in the method that's going to best work for them. What is the best method? Is it video? Great, we can chat. Is it text? I may not be the best person to speak to, but I'll definitely put you in touch with someone who is. Is it images or GIFs? All right, now we're somewhat on the same level here, we can definitely talk. The reason why I focus on video in that toolkit is because it comes naturally to me. I have someone who used their old bulky camcorder in the yard, and I would film myself at like 6 or 7 and record the same tape over and over and over again, because we only had one of those mini meal ones. And I enjoyed it. I saw myself being on TV. I saw myself being in the movies. I saw myself presenting the news or the weather. Because not necessarily that I wanted to be the star, the person, you admire, the actress, the person who gets all the fame and glory. I didn't really care about that pretty much. I enjoyed it because it looked fun. And arguably it is. I'm standing here talking to you. It's actually quite fun and I enjoy it. And hopefully you do too. If you do not find it fun, there are other methods that you do and can find fun. But you need to be consistent with your message. And to do so, you need to be out there doing it. Thank you for joining me on my little rant there for today's topic. Now, I have a bunch of community questions that we are going to get through today. So we've got Aisha, Daniel, Jess, and Tash. These are all questions revolving around, obviously, video and trust. And community questions are my attempt to be succinct as hell when answering people's questions regarding these things. As you may have mentioned or seen just a second ago, I do like to rant, but that's purely because I just like to rant and I like that opportunity. So for these community questions, I'm doing my best to be concise, consistent, and be able to give the information and take what you need and leave. Is that working? No. But we're trying. So these type of community questions are things that I recommend for you to do as well. You can do them in a live stream, on a recording video, however you like to do this. Either way, we're here. So now you're going to cut to Add Zoe, and we're going to get to the first question, which is Aisha. Boring Your Brand was recorded on Wadawurrung land. We're going to have people that are not necessarily referrals themselves, but what I like to call node people. So node people, N-O-D-E, node people are people that are like the center of a node, are the center point of a branching out type of person who seems to know everyone and everything. How do I connect my story to what I sell without being salesy and cringe? Yay. Don't worry, Aisha, I am here for you. So we've just had an email exchange and ultimately the aim of the question was, I want to tell a story about what I do and why it matters, and obviously with passion that comes along with it. But I struggle on making it clear. And the reason that you do that is because there's so many things that you want to say. You have a lot of things that you want to say. So come on with me with the journey. What I want you to do is to be able to pull that out, pull yourself away from what you're trying to sell, and maybe even your own story, and think about your audience. Think about the type of person who wants to hear this message or needs to hear this message more a fact. And in that, what you do is you try and distill your story into a clear message and a clear person. And you do this on a clear channel, and you repeat that again and again and again. You use different stories to back up that message that you want to do. And your story can be stories from your life, or it can be what you've learnt, but distill it into a really simple message. So you can be really clear with what you do, because not every single video has to be a 3-hour-long podcast. You can do really short, sharp stories for using examples from your life, example from your life story. Because you want to help and serve people. And to do that, Aisha, you need to make sure you're clear. Boom, here's a referral for you. Let me know how you go. I'll follow you up in a week. I have networked without even being in a networking event. But again, of course, you get those connections and you get those people by attending networking events. Ew, cringe. I don't want to do dancing TikToks and those type of reels where you're pointing at words on the screen. Well, Daniel, I am here for you, and I completely understand. I'm not a fan of doing the dances either, but you want to do business. So let's come on with but you want to do business. So come on me with a journey here. So when it comes to your content and how it works, you need to get really clear on who you're serving, why you're serving them, like your solution or your whatever you're trying to sell, your product or your service, and do it clearly and consistently. You need to be able to do this again and again and again and again, using different stories, using different examples, maybe trialing different techniques, but the way to do it is you need to start by picking up your phone and giving it a try, practicing. Do not doom scroll for hours when you could be creating something that helps someone, that helps the people that you're here to serve. And to do that, Daniel, you need to give it a try and give it a practice. I believe in you. And when you first start out with a podcast, I highly recommend doing a limited series. A limited series is a podcast, is a series of 20-minute conversations, either with another person or just with yourself. Now, of course, this will take time and practice to put into place. And having this be, say, 12 episodes. So then once that 12 episode period is done, you will have learnt a lot. I keep writing captions and then deleting them, and because I'm overthinking it. Don't worry, Jess, I am here for you. So the question that you're ultimately asking is, how do I talk about what I do in a way that actually sounds like me? Well, first of all, you have to actually sit down and think about it for a second. Then, in regards to the story that you want to tell, the message that you want to share, and how you talk about it, you need to really have your customer in mind. Super dialed in. I'm not talking demographics here. I'm talking really specifically, who is the person that you're here to serve? Who are you helping? And then you need to actually think about, all right, what are the really clear messages I can give you? No fluff, no story, no really big methods. Think about really clearly, what can I give you that's going to help you right now? What simple words can I tell you? What question that I answered recently that really changed my thinking on something? You've got this, Jess. Identifying your ideal brand. Identifying these customers. Usually it comes in a couple of ways. First way is because you've worked with people like this in either the past or you're currently working with them in your business. You know, hey, this particular type of person, I love working with them. They are easy to work with. They pay on time. They listen to what I have to say. They do their best to follow my advice, or they take the products, or they rave about us online. These are the type of people that I want to bring on. I'm ready, but I don't know where to start. This is a problem that a lot of people have, and This is a problem that a lot of people have, and Tash reached out to me with this exact question. So, the first, And a lot of people ask me that question, and Tash asked me this one specifically. What is the first piece of content I should share when I post introducing myself properly, when growing my personal brand, or starting my personal brand? Well, this is where you start. You do a simple 30-second video on the platform that your audience is either already on because you've spent a bit of time building one, or even if you don't have one to begin with, start in a place on one platform, not all of them, just one platform, where the audience that you're trying to talk to is. Start with a simple 30-second video saying your name, your business name hopefully, who you're trying to talk to, and why. Are you providing a product? Are you providing a service or a solution? The point is to start, Tash. And you can, when it comes to a lot of these big names that you see online, their first videos were probably quite crap, unless they had a lot of experience, and even then, most people don't. So take that opportunity to practice by doing a simple video, putting it out there online. Doesn't have to go viral or get 1,000 views, because it's a place for you to start and for you to keep going, because you need to keep going. I have no idea how many times I have been able to gossip with my fellow networkers, my business networkers, and being able to ward off or stay away from certain people or certain businesses because of, the gossip that keeps everyone safe. And I want to stress, gossip is not a bad thing. Gossip is not a negative thing. It's because it's a thing that women do, and women are negative. But I say that with all sincerity, is that, men gossip too. It's just called chatting. It's called networking, darling. And yes, those were our community questions, hopefully done and dusted and nice and quick and easy. Now, was I completely succinct in all of them? No. Will I edit this? Yes. But hopefully I've been able to be really clear and really succinct with those questions and able to get people inspired and take action. And for those who in the questions, I do get this a couple of times, is why I'm using people's names. It's like, oh, that's a breach of privacy. They're not the real names. I use the real names as a way of, also a method of attracting people's attention, but also as a way of humanizing when people ask these questions, because they're real questions that people have. I'm just putting a name to it, so then you can imagine who you're talking to. And even if you're not Tash, Jess, Aisha, Daniel, you still know these people who would ask these questions. And that is ultimately my plan with those community questions. Have I done anything yet? No. Have I recorded these for months and haven't done anything with them? Yes. Will I make a change of that next week? Yes, I will. Why? Because I'm trying to use the method of just doing small incremental things. And for me, that is doing it once. That's the thing that's really, for me, is I always feel like I need to create a process. That before I do anything, I need to map out what I'm doing exactly so that I can repeat it again more efficiently. But I can't keep doing that with everything when I haven't even done it once, when I haven't even tried. And if this is a problem that you're facing, please come join me, because I do this all the time and I need some accountability to kind of stop myself from constantly going to process first, to system first. Yes, it is useful for a business brain or someone growing a personal brand to think in the way of processes and systems, to be able to replicate what you're doing over and over again, to make it quicker, to make it faster, to make it more efficient. But when you're starting out, you just need to start. And that is a problem that I have. But I'm going to change that. So we are moving on to our next podcast episode, which we are recording, which is about fear your audience won't care. This is a fear that I think most of us have when growing a personal brand, and fearing that when you try something new, or you're starting out for the first time, or making a pivot within your personal brand, that you're scared shitless that people won't give a shit. So I'm going to take you on a journey, and we're going to record this episode together, and we'll find out where we're going from here. When I work with clients, my goal is to get them to their desired outcome. Yes, if I need to be a little bit harsh and a little bit mean, which is probably me just messaging them and just being like, hi, you said we were going to do this. Let's do this. Like, that's my mean face. But when it comes to helping people achieve what they need to achieve, that's what I'm here for. That's what you've hired me for, to get to where you need to go, to use the expertise, and hopefully to use the knowledge that you have as an expert in your field. Because ultimately, if you are running a small business, if you are
working with clients and helping them achieve what they want to achieve, you are an expert. You don't need a degree for that. You don't need some fancy piece of paper. If you are helping people and you're doing it right, you're an expert. If you're constantly growing and evolving your education on your particular subject, you're an expert. If you're growing your knowledge and can admit, more importantly, you can admit when you're wrong about something, you're an expert. You're a thought leader in your space.
I'm trying something new. I'm making a pivot, or I'm starting something new. I'm starting a new project. I'm doing something new, and it's scary, and it scares me. Welcome to the Unboring Your Brand podcast, where my hooks are even worse than ever. Yes. Come join me. And you may be afraid to try new things. That is human. That is totally understandable. I understand where you're coming from. But if the fear is about how your audience will react, how your customers will react, it may not be imposter syndrome at all. Come with me on a journey. So this is a question spurred off by a conversation I had with Charlie. And the ultimate question that I'm asking here, or asking you and answering here, so please feel free to join me and answer out loud if it's not too distracting for people who are nearby. The question that they ultimately had was, how do I tell if I've got imposter syndrome or if I'm just scared that my audience won't care what I'm building? That is something to sit with. And I want to start off by establishing a couple of ground rules here. So, when it comes to imposter syndrome, you have probably heard it bandied about a lot in self-improvement spaces, in marketing spaces, essentially all the places that I live and breathe in. When it comes to imposter syndrome, that's actually not what it's called. It's called imposter phenomenon, because it is a occurrence that happens to all of us at some point. For a lot of us, it's multiple times. For some of us, it's just once or twice throughout their life. But I'm going to tell you now, it's probably, if you are doing something and taking action, you are going to feel an imposter phenomenon. But because it's something that occurs once, but then leaves. It can occur and then leave. It's not a perpetual syndrome. But imposter phenomenon, imposter syndrome, ooh, you've got something juicy there. And I think it's purely because the press love that particular term, and it gets people really thinking, because they think it's something that you have to live with, when no, it's just a phenomenon that occurs consistently. And if it's a phenomenon, it can be put in the theory basket. It can be put in the, oh, this can sometimes happen, but it doesn't really happen. No, it's real. And it has. And if you are listening to this today, there's a good chance this has happened to you. But I want to establish that ground rule today in the podcast. But I am going to keep referring to it as imposter syndrome, because of course that's the thing that we all know about. It is a feeling that we have that when you have a wobble in your confidence. It could be something that you're starting out new. It's a new project, a new idea that you have, or maybe it's something that you've been doing for a very long time. And you just have this phenomenon of a little wobble in your confidence. It's a name that we give it because us humans like to put things in labels and put things in boxes. And especially when it's a feeling that you experience as a human being, we like to be able to put a name onto it. But this particular feeling that I'm getting into today's podcast is not the feeling of I'm not good enough, which usually comes along with imposter phenomenon. I said I was going to say imposter syndrome, but here I am saying imposter phenomenon. Who cares? Come with me. So it's not, the feeling that I'm talking about today is not necessarily that I'm not good enough. It's the feeling of, what if nobody wants this? What if I'm making the worst mistake of my career? What if nobody cares? What if nobody gives a shit? And when you are building a personal brand, when you are doing your best to grow something that is going to help and solve people's problems, you are doing the action that no one else is willing to take. And you are going to come across this particular phenomenon a lot, especially when you try new things. And the reason that I want to delineate and to have this complete distinction was not just because of the conversation I had with Charlie. This is something that is recurring and continues to happen a lot, especially with specifically my business personal brand people, but definitely people who are, even people who are, that I speak to on a regular basis, who are, say, organizers of, people who are building their personal brands, or community managers, or event coordinators, those type of people still feel this because they're making decisions not always from the same playbook. You're not constantly going back to the same well every single time to get inspiration, speakers, new people, whatever they're doing. But the reason that I want to delineate this distinction here is because this feeling is not necessarily an imposter phenomenon, because it's not something you can entirely control. Entirely being the optimum word there, and I'm going to bring you on today's journey to see how we can mitigate that, because we like to take things riskfully, but also without too much risk. So with the reason that I want to have that distinction is because it will change how you will ultimately respond to this phenomenon when you feel it. The next time you feel that feeling of, what if they don't give a shit? What if they don't care? What if nobody wants this? I want you to start this podcast again and bring me back into your ears to give you some support. Because even if things feel consistent right now, or maybe that feeling that I'm explaining is constant for you right now, you're making a very big leap, or you're making a big decision, or you're making a big pivot in what you do, and it's scaring you shitless. I want to uncover those roots and see what actually might be driving this for you, rather than just, a little bit of a wobble of confidence or butterflies in your tummy. So, when we are panicking as personal brand builders, you can probably imagine this comes up from time to time. It's not a constant feeling, and if it is, I definitely would go see a therapist or a mental health specialist, because it's not necessarily a you thing if you're constantly in that mode. But of course, unless you can't point to something specifically. Again, we are not a mental health podcast here, but of course, as you can imagine, a lot of the self-improvement and mental health stuff does come a lot with building a personal brand, because you're inherently having a professional reflection of your personal self. But a lot of panic in what we do as personal brand builders shows up right before a big decision. So this is a new offer that you're offering, either be it a product, a service, or a combination of the two. Maybe it's a new direction, or maybe it's a different visibility push to what you usually do, or things that you've tried in the past, keeping in mind that you were the exact same feeling that back in the past when you made those big decisions, but maybe they paid off, or maybe they didn't. Either way, you're feeling that panic now because you're like, what if this doesn't work now? What if this is the thing that kills my career? What if the things that breaks me down entirely? And I become a sopping heap of bleh. I'm going to remind you that you are human. And when you are human, your brain, the thing that is making all these decisions for you, that tells you it thinks logically, but ultimately it actually thinks quite emotionally, your brain consistently hits walls. And especially when you are trying something new, your brain wants to reach out to you and grab you by the shirt tails, pull you back, and try and bring you in a zone of safety. It'll kind of wrap you up in a blanket. And it tries to reach for safe tasks, safe busy work, or the status quo. Because it's safe. We know this works. Or it's safe. It may not work entirely how we want it to, but it's safe here. Because your brain wants to protect you. Your body follows your brain. And in instances like this, when you are worried about what other people think, because it's an element that's outside of your control, there is a feeling, especially with personal brand builders, that you can control your own brain. You can control how you think. You can control how you feel. And to mostly an extent, you can. But not entirely. And that's the part that most of us don't entirely like. And when you are stuck feeling this phenomenon, you can be stuck in a trauma response. because you begin to question your talent, your expertise, your knowledge. And the fear of, if people won't give a shit, often actually points to, will the customers, your clients, your audience, be as interested in this thing as I am? Obviously, you as the personal brand builder are the one putting in the work, or you are hiring a team to do the work for you to help you see that vision. Or maybe you're bringing in outsider help or contractors. And if you need any help with personal branding or video marketing, you know who to call. You are building something, and there is resources on the line. There is time, there is energy, there is money, there is your reputation that is on the line if this doesn't work out. That's scary. And for a lot of us, we become quite used to this feeling, this imposter phenomenon, because we do it all the time. We get practice and we get used to that feeling because, well, if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. And you can imagine, especially with people who have a lot of resources, specifically in the money resource, but not necessarily in the intelligence resource, have a tendency of just throwing a lot at the problem because one of these things has got to work. Once we find the thing that works, we'll go down that route. Will it work forever? No, very rarely does. But for you as the personal brand builder, I want you to take the opportunity to identify this feeling, if you're feeling it now, or if you're going to feel this in the future, and understand that it is temporary. Because, again, your body is trying to save you from heartache, from stress, from worry, because that stuff is taxing. That stuff is taxing on your resources. And what I like to do with my customers or with people that I come across or with Charlie, like in this email, I take it back to something that I constantly spout about if you know me at the Video Confidence Coach. It is, what is your BFM? What is your bare effing minimum to get started? Because when you're in a place of fear, when you're in a place of being absolutely shit scared of what your audience is not going to care about, or if they care too much, or maybe if they are a bit apathetic in the middle, you start playing it safe. You start doing things that you know worked in the past because they worked in the past. What is the smallest thing that you can possibly do that can help you get towards your goal? What is the simplest thing? And specifically when it comes to your BFM, what is the small thing that you can do consistently to get you to that place? You have a goal, you have a dream, you know who you want to help and why, but you need to start somewhere. And I am incredibly guilty of this. I am incredibly guilty of constantly feeling this fear or confidence or wobble in myself. And then my brain immediately goes to, what if they don't care? What if it's shit? When honestly, I'm just trying to mask the fact that I'm shit scared. And when your fear is audience focused, your people, your community, the people who are your super fans, as well as the people that you just met, the fix is not necessarily trying to convince yourself that you are worthy. Because you're already feeling that. You're already at that situation of trying to reduce that guessing or that second guessing of yourself. And the way to do that is by creating MVPs. Yes, no, I'm throwing another acronym at you. But essentially what an MVP is a minimum viable product. And this is used all throughout the business world. So if you are a personal brand builder who doesn't have a business, don't worry, come with me. The mentality is still the same. Instead of making big leaps, big declarations, big things that may piss off your audience if you're scared about that, take tiny steps. Try what is the quickest, fastest, easiest, and cheapest thing that you can do to prove that this will work. And if your audience doesn't care, it's okay. You haven't lost days, months, years of your time. You haven't lost countless amounts of money. You haven't lost the respect or reputation of whoever, you're trying to convince you are a good guy for. because it's a small thing that you're trying. You're trying to see if it works. And if it doesn't work, that's okay. Move on. Take it as, yes, the failure that it may be. We're going to talk about another podcast episode about that particular type of failure. But if it didn't work, what do you learn from it? What can you change? What works and what didn't work? What do people say to you? And then from there, you can reiterate it into something that does work. Or maybe just drop it entirely and move with the knowledge that you have in mind and the experience that you have to then try something that will work. Because you need to try these things out. You need to test them in the real world. And the reason I'm mentioning this in the podcast is this is a problem I have. I have so often being scared to do the simplest, smallest, little thing because I'm worried about what my audience will think. Or the audience that I've worked so hard to build is immediately going to drop me because I'm not saying the right things. And that is scary. But if you want to continue to grow your personal brand, continue to grow your influence, your reputation, your reach, whatever your goal is, or goals are, can level with me, you probably got goals are. When you have those things, you need to start making changes. You need to start doing it. And when it comes to those BFMs, what is the simplest, quickest thing that you can do to achieve that? And maybe, and this is a case for a lot of my personal brand builders, your BFM is really high compared to the people who don't give a shit, who do not care. Your BFM is really high compared to them, which means your level of quality is higher. Your level of responsibility is higher. But I want you to keep in mind that BFM, what is the tiniest test that you can do to prove that your idea, your pivot, your plans is going to work? Maybe it may not work with your current audience. That is okay. Many, many personal brands have different audiences depending on what they're focusing on. They are not foregoing the old audience, or they're not completely dropping them or abandoning them, which is usually a fear that people have, is that if I do something and my audience will abandon me. No, they followed you for a reason. They like your vibe. They probably won't, lose you completely unless you stop doing things. But you need to start with actions that are small, that are doable, that are safe enough for you to complete, but still push the nervous system a little bit so that phenomenon dissipates, because you're not on fire. You're not being eaten alive by a saber-toothed tiger. You are, yes, there is a fear, and a realistic fear too, that your audience won't give a shit. That's okay. You took the smallest step. You took the BFM to be able to make it happen. Realize it. It could be a bigger thing. It can be a bigger thing if your audience wants it, because that's all we're doing for. When we grow a personal brand, it is for our audience. It is for the people that we want to serve. That is all we are doing it for. We do it for the people that our values align. We do it for the people that we once were. However you are growing your personal brand, it is okay if your ideas fall flat. Mine do all of the damn time. But it's because I've taken that action to put them out there. To take those steps. To see if the audience likes it. And it could also be a case that putting it out there, you find that the audience who is resonating, who needed to hear this, is not your current audience. Interesting. Now, do you also support them? And if their capacity is the correct and the idea that you have is worth it enough for the resources that you want to put into it, then yes, go for it. But you need to test this out in the real world to check. And that is for both you and for me. So recapping what we talked about today, just in case I got you in a bit of the weeds, as we like to do here on the Unboring Your Brand podcast. The imposter phenomenon, not syndrome, is something that comes and goes. It's not a consistent state that sits with you your entire life. This fear is not about to kill you. And even though it may feel like it at the time. But this fear that you have is not about your skill or your expertise or your knowledge. It is about your audience's reaction. And your experience and your trauma responses, to be perfectly honest, can look like procrastination, avoidance, and clinging to the status quo that no longer serves you, and more importantly, no longer serves your audience. So I want to ask you to stop trying to think your way out of the situation, because we like to do that as personal brand builders. We like to we like to think our way out of things, which doesn't always work. So in those moments when you're feeling this feeling, when you're feeling this phenomenon, I'm going to ask you to swap those, I gotta think my way out of this, to tiny tests, to tiny experiments, seeing what the audience will say. And if they don't give a shit, that's not the end of the world. If they don't care, that is okay. Because you're trying things. And even if you think it's going to be the best thing since sliced bread, and it doesn't end up being that way, that's okay. Keep that knowledge for your own expertise and your own experience. Maybe shelve it. Maybe it's not the right time. And bring it back out when it is. Small actions build evidence, build consistency, and that evidence then builds to courage. And you can take it. You're not the cowardly lion. You've got the courage to make this happen. Thank you for joining us on this episode today. Please check out these next 2 episodes in your podcasting feed if you want to learn more about this. So the podcast episode I recommend for you is episode 34, Starting Before You're Ready. This is where I talk more about the phenomenon, but also be able to get that consistency going for you. That is an issue that I face constantly and still could face to this day. And I find myself listening to this own podcast to kind of get my motivation back on being consistent with those actions, because it's all well and good to have an idea, but if you don't action it, it's not really doing much for you. And the other episode that I want you to line up in your feed is episode 93, Trusting Your Own Marketing Mojo. So when you have taken on this understanding and knowledge about this phenomenon, you understand that you're not just, yes, you may be worried and you have that fear about what your audience may not give a crap or may not care, because understandably, it's not within your control. But when the results feel unclear, I want you to be able to keep going anyway if your MVP, if your BFM shows it, because you have the proof that you know it works. So, in regards to a simple action that you can take today, for those who are listening or watching today's podcast, of course, if you are listening or watching and you are doing it while operating heavy machinery, please don't, but just take this as an action you can do when you stop doing that. I want you to take the moment to just do like a simple writing exercise, get the thoughts and ideas out of your head with these couple of sentences. So, with everything that we've talked about today in mind, I want you to write one sentence about the direction that you want to take. What is the pivot? What is the change? What is the thing that is scaring you shitless? And then ask 3 real humans if that change interests them and why. Now, I want to ask these real humans, I'm going to specify, probably not your family and your friends, because they care about you. They want to, give you bolster, support. And they may not speak truth to power because, they have to see you every day. I recommend going to, say, a networking event, or maybe reaching out to your business connections that you've made online that you've fostered and kept. And if you aren't able to do that, check out my podcast episodes about fostering that network. An example of this is, I'm thinking about creating X to help Y. What part of that would be most useful to you? And it's about asking the question. It's about taking that step and making that change. And I know it's scary, and I know there is a fear that your audience won't care, but you won't know until you tell them. You won't know until you present them this opportunity. You won't tell them until they won't know until the message sinks in. And honestly, the message has to sink in at least a good 20 times in various different methods before they actually understand what you're saying. But that's why you do the MVP. You do it as quickly and as efficiently as possible, and you do it consistently while thinking about your BFM. Checking out the second link in the description, you will find out the tool that I recommend for people who are starting in this journey, or maybe you need to be recalibrated when it comes to the people that you're actually doing your work for, or maybe this new pivot is a new audience. Oh, now it's time to actually think about what that actually means. Check out the WTF is my niche. WTF is my niche. This is the tool that I have built that I run all of my clients through, that people honestly rave about, and thank you for your ratings and support regarding that. You can check out the second link in the description below. Essentially, it is a tool that is, yes, it's an AI that's trained on me, but essentially this tool enables you to have a clear document and a clear customer AI that breaks down exactly who you're talking to, why you're talking to, and why they should give a crap. Because if people don't care, it doesn't mean that you're in the wrong. It just means that they haven't heard the right message yet. And if this has helped you in any way, please do hit subscribe or follow so you don't miss the next one next week. And if you are feeling oh so generous, please provide us 5 stars and a quick review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. It really helps more than you think, and I really appreciate it. Please do enjoy. My apologies. I'm bouncing around too much. Get out there and do the thing. I believe in you. You need to make sure that you are keeping an eye on your competitors on these platforms. What are they doing? What can you do differently? Not the same. What can you do differently that'll help you stand out from them? Because if people are finding your competitors, that means that they are in that realm of looking for someone like you. So, now, of course, for those who may know me, I don't exactly call competitors. I usually call them collaborators or potential collaborators, depending on the work that you do. But when explaining concepts to people, it's better just to use the words that people are more familiar with. And if someone is looking for something, most of the time if they're on a social media platform, they're going to look for what they need. Your competitors are going to show up, and you should be there too. Thank you everyone for all your comments, questions, thoughts and ideas for podcast topics, and for everyone who is watching us after we go live, #Replay Squad. Thank you for sticking around with us. If you missed any part of today's live stream, you can watch or listen back on the whole live stream on our on the show notes page that we have on our website specifically for this episode. So you can check that out at vcc.training/camera-ready-confessions. And looking up to next week. So next week we have How Do I Stop Over-Explaining? This is another one of those ones where it's a little bit of a Zoe-ism, where this is something that I do a bit too much, and I've noticed in my talks with my customers, hopefully you, or my audience here, that I am finding that this is something that people are worried that they're doing a bit too much, that they are giving too much context, like they're too much and they need some help. Here is what this episode is for. So you've got a point, but you keep adding just one more thing just in case. You just need this. You just need this. You're overloading them with too many treats and goodies to actually help be useful. And then they end up getting a tummy ache. I don't think that metaphor worked too well. Over-explaining feels like being clear and helpful in the moment, but you want to be thorough and not leave people confused. But instead, your message gets muddy, your video drags on, you feel like your control of the conversation is slipping, and your audience checks out before you even land the damn point. In this upcoming Camera Ready Confessions, I help you unpack the over-explaining that shows up so easily and what's really driving it behind the scenes for you. And also me. I'll be there too. You'll see how it quietly affects your clarity and your presence, because it's how people read your authority on video, especially when you're trying to become an expert. Feel free to watch it live at 10 a.m. on Friday, and if you're unable to make it, feel free to check the replay whenever it suits you. Confess your camera sins next week, same time, same place. Mwah.